So you had the jazz influence, and you got started, and you played in band. What was your first like professional band experience? Like, what did you want to do?
Man, what I wanted to do. I mean, I've changed what I've wanted to do so many times. I mean, like probably the first. I mean, like I was in college. I was in the the top big band. There was the Flying Horse Big Band.
Oh, cool.
So I was doing that. When I was in school, we did a record.
So in college, what did you get your degree in?
So I got it in performance, like music performance.
Okay.
With an emphasis on jazz, but the degree just says music performance. But yeah, it was. I mean, it was pretty intense. It was a lot of work. I mean, I studied up.
So when you go and play Barbara B. Man, you can walk in and say, "I'm in charge."
I don't know about that. we don't want me in charge of any place. But yeah, no. Like when I was up there, like I studied with Jeff Rupert, with Marty Morell, who is Bill Evans' longest lasting drummer for like 7 years.
Wow.
Richard Drexler, Per Danielson. Gosh, I mean, like all those guys were just absolutely amazing musicians that really helped me. Dan Miller also helped me a lot. He's local.
Oh yeah,
here.
yeah. I met him. Great guy.
And Lou Delgado too. I mean, those guys.
Oh yeah, you gotta tell your Lou story later.
Oh, absolutely, yeah man. But yeah, Lou's great. But I mean, all those guys really helped me out. Kind of figure out, get my going in the right direction. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for them. And I know there's other people I'm leaving out that really influenced me. But yeah, I was in the big band there. We did that. We did a record, and I think it was 2017. Yeah, when I graduated, called "The Bat Swings." Where it's like all the '60s like Batman theme songs from like, the TV show. Yeah, exactly.
With that big band jazz.
Yeah,
tune.
it's an album, all of that kind of stuff.
Cool.
Yeah,
and that was with the college band.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. We went to the studio up in where was it? It was like somewhere in Orlando. There was a 2 or 3 day, I think it was a 2-day thing. It was a lot of fun, like having that experience.
Awesome.
And then I came back here, and then, a couple of months rather, being down here, Deb linked up with me, and I've been playing with her ever since.
Wow. So how many years now?
Oh, man, I think it's going on. This is the 4th season or 3rd season. I don't know, honestly.
It all blends together, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Nice, man.
Yeah,
so really and you've been probably minus Newt and Don. You've been with her the longest of anybody.
Yeah, just about. Yeah, I mean, and I'm super thankful for her and the band. I mean, she took me when I didn't have a job, and and being in that band has really helped me because, like, we were talking before we started the podcast, like, doing music and academics can be really good, but it can also be really bad if that's the only thing you know how to do.
Yeah.
Because a lot of that stuff that, like shedding, Cherokee, a lot of that stuff will help you overall in music.
But you got to be able to make it yourself.
You got to make it yourself. And if you try to do some of the stuff that, like Bird is doing on Cherokee, on like some songs, like some pop songs, or like where there's a dance song that has a 8-bar solo, you might, crash and burn. Yeah, it's going to sound a little out until you kind of tame it back, and, you have to kind of choose the right notes.
Right. Well, and that's like bass players, and everybody wants to be Victor Wooten, but Victor Wooten plays by himself.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're playing in a band, you have to, know your part. That makes the band whole.
Yeah.
Because, people say, and I've heard it from people, 3-piece band is not a band. You need at least 4 or 5 people.
That's so dumb.
And I've said it's harder to be a 3-piece band than it is to be a 10-piece band.
Yeah.
Because everybody's got to know their part.
Yep. You have to be really tight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with no other rhythm guitar player, the bass player has to lock in with the drummer. And if I go on a tangent for a little while, which has been known to happen.
Oh, believe me, I'm all about tangents.
Yeah, right. But the song's got to stay on that level.
Yep.
And it's hard for some people. And yeah, and the quote that I'll use again on air is, with jazz especially and blues music, is, I've said you can know blues music, and blues music is like adding and subtracting, and jazz music is like calculus. And once you know calculus, you don't look at adding and subtracting the same way. You listen to people like John Mayer, in the guitar world, in my mind,
right?
Brian Setzer, Stray Cats, and the Brian Setzer Orchestra, you can hear, even in the hardest blues song or the hardest rockabilly or punk song that those guys play, you can hear the jazz influence in them, which is great because it opens so many doors. For your musical knowledge, which I'm sure a lot of them are still shut in my brain because I didn't get that training. But there comes a time when, in any other regular circumstance, playing in a 7-piece party band or a 3-piece blues and rock band, you have to be able to dial it back and know what to play and what not to play.
Yep. And that's the really, coming from like a jazz perspective and then going into like a rock and roll or a blues, like, if you're just playing the jazz stuff the entire time, doesn't work, and it sounds very out of place, and it sounds too forced, too contrived, superficial. You really gotta. I like to think of it as like choosing the pretty notes, choosing the right notes, the making more of an
and
impact.
knowing the song.
And
that comes from knowing
too.
the song, knowing the material.
Absolutely.
You have to know where you're going.
Yep.
In the song,
and you also have to know the direction of what you want to say, which means you got to practice. You got
to be able to resolve your solo.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Because if you're going, you're like, oh, I forgot it's only 8 bars, and you end on a weird note.
Yep.
And the singer starts singing again. It's like, oh,
ruins it all.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel
I was so close. You're 2 notes away.
Yep. Exactly.
It's the time.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's fun though.
It's a lot.
We try every time.
I always think about like it's so good that you can make a mistake in music and nobody dies. Because like imagine if you were a brain surgeon,
Oh yeah, right.
It's just like, oh, I just did the wrong thing.
We'll try again next time.
I'll do it on the next one. Yeah, maybe I'll do something.
I know what not to do.
Yeah. Hopefully, yeah, exactly. It's so good that when you don't play a wrong note, in music,
it's jazz.
Or when you do make a wrong note in music, oh yeah.
Sorry,
it was Miles who said, "There's no wrong notes, just wrong resolutions."
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Which is, there is truth to that. You can make any note work, but yeah, it's one of those phrases, man.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like, poor guy. That's what gets remembered. Well, and that's the other one is you can play 3 notes in front of 3,000 people or 3,000 notes in front of 3 people. That's called a jazz. That's called a jazz musician.
That is so true.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Difference between rock and jazz. So what was the biggest when you joined the band? Was that your biggest hump to get over? Was just figuring out your soloing or trying to just learn all the material?
Working. I'm still I learned songs pretty fast. I have a good ear and memory for that kind of stuff. But I just trying to get out because I was so in that idiom of just like jazz language changes, this and that. I was using the like the bebop scale or using things like that over the music that it doesn't like it can work if you know how to use it right. You have to apply it properly, But if it's like if you add like a little bit of cinnamon to the top of something, if you dump the entire thing on it, then like
too much.
Yeah, you're having like cinnamon with instead of you're having coffee with your cinnamon, you're having cinnamon with your coffee. I think I said that backwards, but
I know what you mean. Yeah,
like
you want to have cinnamon with your coffee, not coffee with your cinnamon.
There you go. Yep. See, that's why you're here. So you get
exactly.
But like
that's why I'm the band leader.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm not. That's for sure. But no, it's like it's that same thing. It's like unlearning. It's not unlearning, but it's like that was all what I knew when I joined the band.
Right.
And
so it's like you just had to learn more.
Yeah. I had to learn more, expand my ear. Exactly. Yeah. And that all comes from just listening.
Well, and it's taking what you already know in that academic area, that box, that literal box, like indoctrination from a teacher.
Yeah, and it can be a box. It absolutely can be. Like for me, it was, and that's not to say that's not the teacher's fault. Mm-hmm. It's just how my brain works.
Right.
I put myself in that box. Like, okay, this is what I have to play when I see this 7th chord or this alteration of a 7th chord.
These are the notes I must play.
I have to play this scale. This is the only and that's not how if you listen to that's not how Charlie Parker was thinking. That's not how Stevie Ray Vaughan, all these guys or B.B. King. These guys, they just didn't think like that. They were like, oh, I thought it was a good idea to play this note here, and it sounded good.
So I did it again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so it's like, that's how music is really made. That's how people really influence other people with music, not just the mathematical part of music. This scale correlates with this chord, and
right. Well, and the math is important there, but it's about being able to know when to step out of it.
Yeah, and it's it's not, music is just not about that only, it's so much more than that. So
yeah, man.
Right on.
We're talking about, we're getting deep. We're talking about coffee. We got to ad break. This episode is sponsored by Blues Beans Coffee. You can get your Swampland Funk original blend today at bluesbeanscoffee.com. It is rocking your taste buds with a medium dark roast ground coffee hailing from Central and South America, blasting with flavors of brown sugar, hazelnut, and plum. This 100% Arabica coffee is manufactured in the northwestern USA. Ready to brew just for you. Go to bluesbeanscoffee.com with Z's instead of S's because, of course, get yours today and even pick up a Blues Beans coffee mug while you're at it. bluesbeanscoffee.com. Yes, bluesbeanscoffee.com. Have some cinnamon with your coffee. But, so, in guitar world, and we are the lowest on the totem pole, I understand. In the music hierarchy. I love it whenever I teach folks and I teach the chromatic scale. Guitar players write it out a certain way. It's A flat, A, B flat, B flat, B flat. B, that's Fat Bottom Girls. B flat, B, C, C sharp, D, E flat, E, F, F sharp, G. And then it repeats. And they always, new students who have no idea what I'm talking about, always look at it and go, how come some are flats and some are sharps? And how come there's two names for those, like F sharp or G flat? I don't understand it. I said, well, guitar world, that's how we learn it. And I was told, and correct me if I'm wrong, anybody out there in cyberspace, piano, when you go up, it's sharp, and when you go down, it's flat. And I've heard other things from horn players of how you read certain music, different keys, or you see them as flats or you see them as sharps, and it's very interesting to me. Yeah,
no, I think I've heard the same thing about piano.
Yeah.
Generally going up sharps, going down flats. The guitar, I never understood, because I've come across people who are just like, C sharp or D flat, no, it's C sharp, and I'm like, no, it's both. It depends on what the and it's like it just depends. When I'm saying a note or I'm talking like a chord or theory or something, I'm thinking of the sound in my head. I'm really thinking about what that note sounds like, and contextually, if it's against whatever chord, like if it's in the third, if it's the root of the chord, or if it's the third or the seventh or flat nine, something like that. Really thinking about like the tension that it is, or just the sound in general. But yeah, I mean, it's just important to be able to think about it in as many ways as possible,
and that's interesting because we think about it differently, because you go in the approach of like visualizing the numbers, and you see the third and you go there and you hit that. I'm a very visual person, and I think guitar is a very visual thing, because you can correct me if I'm wrong, with the saxophone your hands are just there and you're playing, and you have to use your head more, where guitar you're seeing what you're doing more. And you're literally looking down a line of strings, and I'm used to different shapes.
Right.
So I know, in my case, the minor pentatonic is my crutch. But I know where I can break off of that and go to different sections.
Right.
And another thing I tell my students is, if you know where your octaves are, you never get lost.
Right.
Because what you did here, you can do here, and it sounds different even though it's the same thing.
Right. Yeah, that is like so opposite of saxophone. Like the idea of shapes, or like, keeping in track of where your octaves are, you don't have to worry about that at all. But for me, what really helped me is visualizing, what I'm actually playing. Like if I'm, if I want to go up, I see myself going up, note, or not even note wise, but just sound wise,
Right. You see a pitch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like I can see it going up or going down, and I can really hear, my fingers are really connected to my brain, and it
have
just
that memory lock in.
Yeah, and I definitely visualize it, but like not in a literal visual way where I can see shapes. That would trip me out so hard, playing like that, because that's just not how I play.
Yeah.
Everything's in front of me, and I just kind of look forward.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and you just have to play it.
Yep. Yeah. So, but I'll use like the space in front of me.
Yeah.
You'll
map it out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll see it like that.
Yeah.
Very visual, but not literally, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's all in my head, man.
Whether or not anybody listening knows what the hell we're talking about.
They're like, this guy is crazy. What
Mike drugs are they on?
Why is he here? And I'm thinking.
So, and another thing in the guitar world is, and I'm sure you can attest to this too. Every guitar is different. You can have, and I play 2 Stratocasters when I play, and I've always said it's one of the best made guitars ever made, best designed guitar ever made. Rob in the band will disagree because he plays 3 tellies.
Robert Morris.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But talk about your journey finding that saxophone that you play now.
Man, I got so lucky. So I was actually taking, even though Dan Miller's a trumpet player, he teaches jazz, improvisation and jazz theory like it's nobody's business.
That's
I mean,
cool.
he's like,
even on different instruments, you can still get the concept.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and Dan has turned me on to so many records that have influenced my playing, especially like Charlie Parker. I mean, like, just really influenced my playing. I'm forever grateful for what Dan Miller has done for me. I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for him. But so I was in a lesson with him, and I forget what I was playing, like an old Kyleworth, which was my first professional saxophone that I got when I was in high school. And I've always wanted to own a Selmer Mark VI. It's just, that's like, what you were saying with, like, that's like
that
the
horn that you wanted.
Yep. It was like a dream. Everybody that, whose sound that I loved played on it, or, just about everybody. I just always wanted one. Not that because I thought it would make me a better player, but I just liked the sound of it and the feel of it. And so I go to Dan after the lesson. I was like, hey, do you know anybody who's, selling a saxophone? I didn't mention the Mark VI or anything. And he goes, oh, I do know somebody who's selling a saxophone. Let me give him a call. And he called Lou Delgado.
Nice. Now, and little backstory, who's Lou Delgado?
Lou Delgado, I mean, he's played with, it's more like, when you talk about with Lou, who he has or hasn't, it's more about who he hasn't played with. He's played with like everybody. Single person. He was on SNL for 30 years.
And that was the big thing, is he was one of the main horns on SNL.
Yeah, he played, I think it was baritone. He played like every single instrument.
Awesome.
He played flute, clarinet, bass clarinet, oboe, English horn, bassoon. I mean, all the saxophones. Just like one of the most talented multi-instrumentalists.
Which, and as a side note, bass clarinet is extremely cool. When I was at University of Miami, I'd never seen one before in my life.
Oh, yeah?
And this kid, we had no bass player in this particular band that we were grouped in.
Yeah.
And this kid walks in, and the guy goes, oh, great, he'll be like your bass player. And he's carrying a horn case. And I'm like, what does he play? He played bass clarinet.
Really?
And it was awesome.
I was going to say, he must have been laying down the bass. Yeah,
so
man.
People, you have no idea what a bass clarinet is, look it up, because it is fantastic.
They sound great, man.
They do.
Oh, man, there's Eric Dolphy is one of my favorite saxophone players. But there's a period where he goes and plays bass clarinet a lot.
Nice.
Oh, my gosh, he really sounds good on bass clarinet.
Yeah.
But so he calls Lou, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'll give you his number. You guys will arrange a time to meet up." And
no big deal.
Yeah, and so I go over there, and I'd seen Lou before play, but I'd never like met him. He came to University of Central Florida when I was there. He did a master class. That was the first time I met him, but I wasn't like personable with him.
Yeah.
And so I go to his house, beautiful house, and he brings me to his music room, and he's like, well, there's the horn, try it out and all that. And I'm playing it. I played that Charlie Parker solo.
Yeah.
I played that. I was playing everything, just getting a feel for it.
And of course you're like, with him right next to you.
Well, and here's the thing too. So he had just decided to sell that horn because he's a tenor player. He just wanted to play tenor. He was selling his like 2 flutes and I think his clarinet. And he didn't play alto anymore. He didn't really need it. And he really wanted to find somebody that, was going to give it, the love, not some collector.
Yeah, not just...
try and make money off of it. Yeah, none of that crap. And so I'm playing it, and as I'm playing it, he's getting phone calls left and right, people wanting to buy the horn, offering way more than what he was asking when he offered it, or when he sold it to me. And he was just like, nah, I got a guy here trying it, and, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And, he was really nice, man. And he was like, oh, I love your playing. I really want you to have the horn. And then he told me the price. And then I was yeah. And I was like, Lou, I was like, listen, I was like, I'll get you your money. I go, but I don't have that right now.
Yeah.
And he was super great. She was like, dude, I'm not in a hurry for the money. He goes, I want you to have the horn. I mean,
I was
like,
on this thing called SNL. I'm okay.
he's doing all right.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's such a wonderful, awesome person. And, you know, I scrounged up the money over a couple months, and I got the horn. And I got the horn and brought it home. And I literally, I don't remember when I got home. I think it was like 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And I didn't stop playing until like 3 or 4 in the morning. I just played nonstop. I was in love with it. And then the worst thing happened next morning. So I wake up and I go to practice like I always do. The horn doesn't work. It's it's not, you know, basically what had happened.
He sold you a lemon.
Well, that's what, no, I never thought that, but it was like, I'm playing it and I was like, it was playing beautifully the day before. And I was like, what in the world happened? The shellac that holds the pads together, you know, when you press the saxophone key down, it's got to seal all the way. And then the next opening is where the note comes out. The air escapes from, and that's what creates the pitch.
That's cool.
Yeah.
The more you know.
Exactly.
I'm a guitar player.
You didn't blink.
Now you see.
But so the saxophone, the shellac that was holding the pads were over 40 years old.
Oh, wow.
And so when I played, it hadn't been played
You played it on SNL.
Yeah, probably, right? He might have. I think he did. I mean, it's definitely been on the stage or the set of SNL. I gotta go through and see, you know, if he's like, when he's in the video, like, you know, like you always see Lenny Pickett on SNL.
Oh yeah.
I gotta see if I can see Lou in like the earlier, you know, like in the 80s and whatnot. But the shellac literally started falling apart.
You played it so much.
I played it so much the shellac fell apart.
Wow.
And I had to get it redone and everything, or, you know, overhauled and whatnot. And as soon as it was overhauled, I mean, it was just beautiful. It was exactly what I wanted. But awesome. I was so heartbroken because I was like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah,
you know?
the next day.
It was, I was looking forward so badly to playing it. Like, I'm going to practice.
How long was the turnaround for getting it fixed?
For, it was like a couple of weeks. I actually, I flew it out to, I shipped it out to his guy, Emilio, nice. And who worked on like Michael Brecker's horns, Stan Getz horns, George Young, Sonny Rollins. I mean, like all the Sonny Stitt, all these jazz giants.
That's awesome.
You know, came to his house and he was working. He was in his house when I was there, but he was working at a music shop at that point. Huh. And I shipped it off to him, and he hooked me up, and I flew out to Boston and, you know, played. And he told me stories about he was like brothers with Stan Getz. Wow. And really close. You know, he has all these pictures in his workshop of, you know, he worked on Dave Sanborn's horn. He's got pictures with Mike Brecker. He's got pictures with everybody that you can think of in terms of, you know, saxophone players for jazz. Just an incredibly nice guy. Family's beautiful. And I mean, he fixed my horn, and it's still working to this day, man. Yeah. I mean, I gotta, you know, I gotta see him at some point again to get it fixed, but it was beautiful. Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, and that's, you know, one of the things, and this is something my parents, you know, raised me to understand, is you work to make money to put back into your business.
Yeah,
and when you work so hard to get that money to buy that thing, whether it's a guitar or that saxophone, it makes it that much better.
Oh, I couldn't even put into words the feeling when I finally, like when I took it home with me the first day. That was one of the happiest moments of my life, you know, because I had worked for it and
then the first time you play it on stage.
Yep. Yeah. You know exactly how it feels, man. I mean, and anybody who's listening they know exactly how that feels too. It's like the best feeling ever. You just feel so accomplished. Yeah. I mean, it's just,
That's awesome.
Right
Good
on.
stuff.